Since the year 2000, there has been one film franchise that endeavors to reiterate the fact that there is no escape from death. It's the one film franchise that reminds us to dry off the floor before running a bath, have a good long look at a roller coaster before getting on, and of course, never, ever ride behind a logging truck. This is the latest entry to Final Destination, Bloodlines. I'm Ronald Young Jr., and I'm leaving the theater. All right, this is Ronald, and I am leaving the theater after seeing Final Destination Bloodlines. Final Destination Bloodlines. Written by Guy Busick and Laurie Evans Taylor, directed by Zach Lipovsky and Adam Stein. Starring Kaitlyn Juana, Tio Briones, Richard Harmon, Owen Patrick Joyner, and Tony Todd. And per usual, for a complete cast listing, you can go to the link in our show notes. It's just me today. Okay, so I believe that this is the sixth entry in the Final Destination film franchise. I'm looking it up right now as we speak, and I'm going to keep talking like this until I can confirm that this is indeed the sixth installation of Final Destination. And it was funny. As the credits were rolling, I was thinking Final Destination, Final Destination 2, Final Destination 3, Final Destination 4, and the Final Destination. No, that's wrong. Oh, I did that wrong. No, it's Final Destination, Final Destination 2, Final Destination 3, and I think they advertised it Final Destination 3D. Then it was The Final Destination. Then it was Final Destination 5, which feels, pretty much insane to go from a movie that's called The Final Destination to Final Destination 5. They almost fell into the same naming trap that Fast and Furious runs into. If you ever want to have some fun, you should just look up the Fast and Furious franchise and just look at the names of the movies and see that they never stayed consistent. The most consistent thing is their inconsistency in naming those movies, which is kind of fun. If you actually start reciting them, there's no way in the world you could do it without laughing, especially when you get to the middle three. When you get to Fast and Furious, Fast 5, and then I think it's Furious. Sorry. You gotta watch it. You can just go do it. Trust me, if you want a little bit of joy, just read them and just think, like, what were they thinking when they named these? Why not just keep going, or just go something shorter, like Fast? But they did that. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm getting in the weeds. The point is, this is Final Destination Bloodlines. If you like Final Destination, if you don't drive behind those those log trucks because of Final Destination 2, if you don't do that, if there's reasons in which you'll walk into a room filled with, saws, or if you're just very wary around certain rooms, hospitals, you are not going to be disappointed in this movie. The plot of this movie is that it starts as usual with some big set piece where all of these people are died in a very gruesome and graphic way, and that premonition, instead of going to the original person who avoided that tragedy, as you've seen on the plane or in the car pileup or whatever, as you've seen in the other ones, in this one it happens at the top of what looks like the Space Needle but is not explicitly called the Space Needle, when the Vision person wakes up, it is the granddaughter of the person in the Vision. And what then happens is it is revealed that all of the people who should have died in that disaster, as it was avoided by the grandmother, all of the people who should have died in that disaster have now over the years died because death is catching up to them and taking them over. Now, if you like Final Destination, if you turn these movies on because you're like, it's kind of fun, like it's like the Rube Goldberg machine of killing these people in gruesome ways. And it's funny because I felt like they were more graphic earlier on than they are now, because now the animation has gotten to a place where it looks like animated gore. I think earlier the effects were a little bit more practical, and it felt like, I remember in the very first one, there's a bathtub like kind of drowning scene, and that one, oh my God, that is tough to watch. And there's a lot of very practical effects that are used there that make it feel like a lot more terrifying. Those of y'all that know me, I'm a big old scaredy cat, don't really like gore. This is but like, again, that I'm watching it should tell you something about the level of gore that's in it. But also, don't listen to me, because I know when to turn away. Like, my mom taught me, just close your eyes, you know what I mean? And that's like, literally, I've been like going through movies that I think are too scary, or, oh, that's about to scare me, I'm looking down to the right, or I'm not looking at the screen and everybody else jumps, I'm not going to jump. The only time a jump scare can get me is if they do it cheaply, meaning that like they just throw it in there without giving me the little warning, like violin high strung thing that kind of makes you say, oh boy, some tension's coming up. If they just throw one in there like they did on Sinners in the very beginning, then yeah, that's going to get me every time. I remember watching this one and thinking, hey, I don't think the character development is that great. It's not as bad as I initially thought, because it starts off with something very tropey, and I'm like, great, is this going to be tropes over actual development? And they get to the development piece of it. They actually get to a place where they're actually like developing the characters and the relationships with each other. There's a rhythm that comes with Final Destination films, meaning one person figures out this thing is happening. Nobody believes them until another gruesome death happens. Then everybody believes them. Then they turn into a bunch of detectives trying to stop the thing that's happening from happening. That feels a little, I would say that this movie does two things. One, it doesn't really care about, the franchise proves that it doesn't really care about solving the mystery of death anymore. It really doesn't. It's really just about delivering complex death traps. And it's more like Saw now in that way. Like, Saw became, how gruesome or how weird can we make this next trap? How gruesome can we make this next death? That's what this is kind of becoming. Not necessarily to the detriment of the franchise, because this is a B movie franchise. Like, this is not something that it just is. It's a B movie franchise. I mean, a couple movies ago, I think it was maybe in 3, they were killing everybody on a roller coaster. You know what I mean? Like, this is a franchise that's Sharknadoing itself out to pasture, but they keep making these. And if this makes money, I'm going to pay attention to the box office. Sinners is making me pay attention to the box office now and understand the business of movies more than the story of movies, because many years I've been like, if it's a good story, it should get a sequel. Now I'm realizing that you want a movie that you like to have a good story and to make money in the theater. That's how it will get a sequel, and likely a sequel that is cared for in most cases. This one is, I don't think these movies are hard to make. I do not think that they're probably expensive at all, which means that you probably will get more Final Destinations than you want. I mean, this one, obviously, we took the last Final Destination was in 2011. It's 2025. That's a 14-year break. So, like, I mean, and this is a season of reboots. They're like, well, let's see if this Final Destination works out. The other thing that works about this is that they lean more into the comedy in this one. And then at some point, so much so leaning into the comedy that I was like, oh, wait a minute. I think this might be a comedy franchise now. Like, there was some laughs in there that made me laugh because I'm like, well, y'all know why I'm here. I'm here because I'm curious, how are y'all going to do this? Part of me is also curious if they're ever going to solve the mystery of death. But if it's becoming a nihilistic franchise, then I think maybe they do lean more into the laughs. Not so much that it's a spoof, but it may be more that it's, and there's a way in which it was always funny, the comedic timing of a gruesome death across all of these films. But there's a little bit more than that in this time. There's just like little pump fakes and illusions that have kind of always been there, but this one, for those of you that watch it, you'll know what I'm talking about. It just leans further into the parts of this that are absolutely hilarious. Like, basically, how many times can the same group of people go through the same things? And even though it's a different group of people, it's still the same group of people. Like, so, like, it's like, how many times can these people keep going through these same things over and over again? And I mean, that is funny. You know what I mean? That is like cosmically and existentially funny in a very specific way. And this one leans more into that, which I think I appreciated a little bit. And I probably would appreciate more if they just got the right writer in there to be like, you know what? It is funny. Let's just make it funny. Like, instead of being like, this is a drama where we're scared, like there's like, I mean, the movie starts with like two or three funerals. And I feel like at some point, somebody's got to be like, fancy meeting you here. Or, hey, look who it is. Hey, stranger. You know what I mean? Like, there's got to be some more lean-ins in that way. Because at some point, you'd have to say the trauma of people losing this many. Because I think that's what gets me. As someone who's now acquainted with grief in a way that I never have been before, I watch a film like this and be like, well, if you're not going to talk about the grief and the actual, like, crippling way in which this would be devastating for most people going through this many, like, close deaths, like around them while still being afraid that they could be next, there has to be a way for you to deal with that trauma, or you have to turn completely away from it and just make it comedy. And I think this one was still straddling the fence a bit, but eventually it was like, nah, we funny, and started being funny in a way that I was like, okay. But I think part of that is the fact that this movie has 3 writers, so I wouldn't be surprised if one of 2 things happens. Either they went too far with jokes on a first draft, or there's a version of this where they didn't go far enough with jokes and somebody came and punched up and added some jokes and all that in the lines, because there's a way in which it's definitely not even all the way through in terms of action versus jokes, all of that. So, yeah, I mean, there's some problems, like the mom feels entirely unnecessary. There's a mom character in this you'll see, entirely unnecessary. There's some familial connections that I understand what they're doing. They definitely thicken the plot, but they don't do much more than that. It's not a bad movie. I mean, it's like, we're talking about a movie where Sinners is still in theaters, Thunderbolts is still in theaters, and we're a week out from Mission Impossible. And if for some reason you can't get tickets to any of those, here's Final Destination saying, hey, do you want to watch this one in maybe a half-empty movie theater? So yeah, with all of that in mind, I would give this a 3.25. I will definitely watch it again. I watch all of the Final Destination movies more than once. I think that this is a better Final Destination movie. For them to reboot it in this way, I think they definitely took it a little bit more serious. There's still problems, but I'm hoping that if this makes a lot of money, that they'll pay attention to what works, and when they do another one, they'll lean more into that. They'll talk about the interconnected nature of the other films, what we're talking about here, and like kind of keep moving forward in that way, kind of maybe like the way Happy Death Day did, which was just really leaning into the comedy in a very specific way, even though it's like a movie about essentially a murderer, you know. So yes, I'd give it 3.25 stars. If you like Final Destination, you likely will not be disappointed with this. And with that, Leaving the Theater is a production of Oh It's Big Ron Studios. I mixed this episode, and per usual, I am now vlogging over on Patreon, which means that if you're a part of the Patreon, you get a little bit more insight from me on the vlog about what I'm watching, about trailers that are coming out. I saw the trailer for F1 today in the theater, and I wish I had done a trailer reaction for that, because that movie looks a lot better than I thought it did. I mean, it's Brad Pitt and Damson Idris, and I'm like, man, this is like, it seems like they're taking this seriously. People thought it was just going to end up being a F1 version of Ford versus Ferrari, but this feels like just, I don't know, this feels like a little bit better than that. So I'm excited to see that. If you care about those types of takes from me, which aren't just me reviewing movies as I walk out of the theater, you should check out the Patreon. Also, the Patreon helps us pay for things like the movie ticket today. Today was not a press screening. There was no press screening available for Final Destination Bloodlines, so I had to pay for the ticket. I have to drive over here. This is a labor. I'm doing labor. I have to edit the podcast together. I have to put it out so y'all can hear it every week. When you miss a week, it's because the tasks became too overwhelming for me. So I need y'all to know that this is labor. If I miss an episode, I'm missing it because this is hard work. So the best way to help me with that, go to patreon.com/leavingthetheater or go to the link in our show notes. Show art from Heather Wilder. Theme music by the mysterious Brickmaster Cylinder. For more information about Final Destination Bloodlines, check out our show notes. You can follow me on Instagram, Blue Sky, TikTok, Threads, or Letterboxd at @OItsBigRon. That's at OHITSBIGRON. You can find out more about this show and other Oh It's Big Ron Studios shows by following us on Instagram at Oh It's Big Ron Studios. Leaving the Theater will be back soon. Thanks for listening. If you care about those types of takes for me that aren't just me reviewing movies, if you care about those types of takes for me that aren't just me reviewing